Good morning and welcome to the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce Group and to today's webinar on the 3 C's of running your business from home rather than the office. Please be advised this webinar is being recorded and is available to listen to again and to share via our YouTube channel. So that's available on the actual chamber website, which is www.thamesvalleychamber.co.uk. I'm Narinder Multani, Account Manager here at the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. Today, Adam Armitt and Paul Ballinger of STL Communications will be delivering today's webinar on the 3 C's of running your business from home rather than the office. So I'm now going to pass you over to Adam and Paul, who will introduce themselves and commence with today's webinar. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well. Good morning. Getting used to home working. Probably just set the scene. So an introduction from myself, Paul Ballinger, STL, and I'll let Adam do his own introduction. The purpose of today is not for us to suggest how people should work from home. It's not about policies. It's just about how you can use technology to make it the best you possibly can. It was interesting. I've just come off a call with a customer that's in a way delighted about the home working shift that we've had because they've been banging on about it for years and years and years. And she confirms that she got statistics up to her gills that define that we get more productivity and a better quality of life by home working. And it's not always the case if somebody's not working if they're not in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're not working if they're not leaving the office by 6 o'clock at night. So it's an interesting shift to see what new normal is going to be in a few weeks or months' time when we hopefully come out of this and start the fight all over again. Adam, if you want to do the introduction on when you start your slides. But so this is about using technology to operate just as if you were in the office. And it's probably right and proper for me to say at this point that because we're an IT supplier and a telecom supplier, we don't have a box of tricks that are not available to you, the business. Our challenges are exactly the same as I believe any other business. It's about speaking to customers at the right time and appropriately, and about allowing your customers to speak to you at their right time and appropriately, and giving them information and access to information that allows them to know you're there for them when they need you, but yet keep them informed along that journey. Hence why we all have websites and chat, and we can be accessed 24/7 via messaging service. So we're slightly in front of the curve, but probably not too different to most businesses. We run a disaster recovery day twice a year, and we do that as part of our ISO accreditation. Disaster recovery, what is that? Again, that was a capability that STL felt we needed to have to offer service delivery to our customers, regardless of where our individuals were sat working, whether that be a Costa Coffee, not name dropping obviously, but or home working, or in the office. The service delivery to our customers shouldn't range at all. It should be exactly the same. We should hit all our service level agreements. So the irony being is about 6 weeks ago, we did our first disaster recovery day of the year, where we notify the staff literally the night before that they cannot get into the office the following day, and we have to operate as a business and deliver that service to you, the customer. Did it go smoothly? No, it didn't, to be honest. We had a couple of people forget their power lead for their laptops. A couple of people forgot their headsets for their laptops, but they could have used the audio from the laptops. And a couple of people were challenged, and Adam will go into this later on, by some home broadband routers stop voice over IP calls going through them. So it was an interesting exercise for us to do and to overcome. But thankfully, it meant that when we did deliberately move to home working because of CV19, we were able to operate 100% efficiently and still deliver that service to our customers. So a phrase I'm sure you've heard and we've read over the weekend, what's new normal going to look like? I think that's for us to define. 2 weeks ago, things were incredibly different and nobody could have predicted this. It's going to be a massive change for businesses, but it's about enabling your people and yourselves really to get more out of your day wherever you are in the world. And technology thankfully enables that, but it's not just a case of buying it or selling it. It's then how you embrace that and take that forward. I'm sure we've all had some horror stories while we've possibly been on video. I won't ask anybody to bring any to the front, but embarrassing situations about people walking around with laptops and maybe using them in rooms that you wouldn't use to stay on video calls. But hey, that's a learning exercise we all go through. So challenges are mounting. It's about being connected with the customer despite where you are. What we did as STL, we sort of defined these into 3 areas, the 3 C's, and they are collaboration. And for us, that's about how you get your individuals working remotely and operate as a cohesive team, just as they were if they were in the office. Connection, which is about the connectivity and how employees have that capability at home to work, and they don't have that packet loss, jitter, silent pauses, poor video experience at home, because they are still professional calls. I mean, I know people who have been driven to do big pictures over video to win bids and deals, and maybe that's the new normal moving forward. Again, it's about making sure that quality is right and making sure you've got the right equipment. And again, a lot of this comes in, frankly, at a price point that, dare I say, we may spend more on printer cartridges and tea and coffee in our offices. That's the terrifying fact. When you start to look at what that cost drives as far as productivity, in some cases, it's a very easy decision to make. You'll all need more bandwidth working at home now the children are off, because they'll want their bandwidth hungry apps to run, Netflix, video, instant messaging, TikTok, whatever that is. So that's another challenge, but the connection is obviously key. Without that, you can't operate. And the 3rd C is the communication. How do we keep that communication seamless with your team? We found as a business, we probably speak more now than when we were in the office. We're having a senior management call every day, sometimes twice. Team meetings are happening twice a day on video, and we have a company call twice a week as well to make sure all our people are communicated with. So again, we've increased certain communication because of lack of personal contact, and I don't know whether your experiences are the fine. So I'll let Adam carry on beyond this point, but I hope that pitch makes perfect sense.
It's great. Can I quickly ask a question, Paul? So yeah. It's about connection. So what do you do if connectivity goes? So you're sitting at home with a deadline and the work has been completed and you're ready to just submit it, but there's no way of sending it across. So is there any suggestions as a backup plan or an alternative solution?
I'll touch on those in one of the slides.
We do cover that because we went through an audit for our home working policy, which Adam will go through. And again, it might be a bit horses bolted and the doors closed, but again, if we don't learn from these experiences, then we're missing the point as well. But that's a really good question, Narinder. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And delegates have just tuned in. Just to remind you that this webinar is being recorded. So if you've just missed out, or you wanted to listen to it again or share it to your colleagues, it is being recorded, so you can actually access that through the Chamber website. If you do have any questions, please post them in the chat box, and Paul and Adam will answer those accordingly. I don't know if you guys want to do that towards the end, or if you want to just do it throughout this the presentation.
Whichever works for the participant.
Okay, great, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so hi guys, it's Adam Armitt from STL, IT account manager with STL. So yeah, following on from some of Paul's comments to start with. So first, looking at the first C when it comes to collaboration. I don't know about you, but I don't think my digital social life has ever been as busy without leaving my house. So I've been invited to virtual pub quizzes, family FaceTime sessions, house parties on a Friday night without leaving my house. So like with a lot of technology, I think we all find that in our social lives and personal lives, we're very quick to adopt technologies, but in business, sometimes we're a bit slow to react. And whether that's just because of the way that we work or whether it's a cost, we do seem to do things. We all adopted WhatsApp very quickly to organise football teams, but would do an email conversation with 20 participants. And it's sort of now that shift has obviously taken place. It's sort of following on from Paul's comments, what we're not here to do is look at best practice. It's more to try and share the fact that we're having sort of hundreds of these conversations with customers. And by doing that, we've sort of put together what we feel like the practical tips to sort of run through when it comes to home working. So when it comes to collaborating as a business, one thing that we found is if we can try and concentrate or focus on one medium, then that will work best. So we, in our business, for example, for internal collaboration, use Microsoft Teams. At the moment for this webinar, we're using Zoom. There are no negatives and positives with either or. We're not here to provide that sort of critical analysis, but by focusing on one particular product, obviously from adoption perspective, we can speed up the adoption, because if we're trying to get teams working on multiple platforms, that's obviously going to bring its own challenges. Myself and Paul in previous webinars have spoken about sort of 5 generations of workplace. So we're now asking people that joined a workforce without potentially computers in the office to now work remotely and successfully using a web, using a headset, and in a lot of the times it can feel like a bit of an uphill struggle with some members of the team. And we've had those challenges internally with STL as well. So when it comes to adoption and on collaboration, often the challenge is that these products get rolled out without really any sort of corporate governance, regardless of the size of your business. So it's ensuring that it's set up succinctly. You set out the expectations as to what it's going to be used for. As Paul said, we're trying to run regular team meetings so that people get used to it. And then we can then roll this out with our customers. So we've had to flip all of our face-to-face meetings to video meetings. As our customers become more used to that, we're obviously finessing the process. So making sure we're sending reminders out to our customers that the meeting is going to take place over video. Do they have the technology to support it? Just so we can make the most of that time. And often customers are finding it really useful because they're not having to sort of wait for us in reception, make the cup of tea. It's sort of shortening that learning curve. So it is working very well at the moment. I'll show us a bit of a screenshot in a slide shortly, but one of the things that we've done with adoption, and we noticed this when we ran our DIR days last year, was training for some users. We had quite a spike in terms of calls that were going into our IT support team. How do I do this? How do I create a team? How do I share a document? And it was through going to an industry event that we found an e-learning, e-training partner that provided us with a partner, with a training portal that our employees can use, and also we've been rolling it out to our customers. But it's a portal of predominantly Microsoft products. But if we take Microsoft Teams for an example, I'll just jump to that slide now so you can see it. So you should be able to see on the screen, it's a screenshot of our portal. So this course, for example, is working with Microsoft Teams. The course content is broken down into short, snappy content videos, very similar to YouTube, and actually created by sort of Microsoft influencers over in the US, but they are really easy to use. So the first lesson there, accessing the online app. So how do you access it via a browser? How do you download the desktop app? How do you create a new team? And not only have we tasked our employees to carry out this training, and from a management perspective, we can see who's carried out what training. There is a certification and an exam at the end to make sure that that learning and development is sort of sunk in, but also you can then refer back to those videos, and there is a search bar. I think you can see it in the top hand corner where it says search lessons. So if you have a question around how do I add a file, if you type that in the search bar, it will bring you back the most relevant videos to that search request, and then you can reference them back. So what that did was massively drive down the amount of tickets that our IT support team were getting, and meant that the adoption of that product was accelerated. This has worked really well for us as a business internally, but as I mentioned, sending this out to customers as well means that right at the beginning of the CV-19 pandemic, we had obviously a lot of business moving to home working. One particular example was a college in Oxford. They're a private college that wanted to roll out distance learning, remote learning for 160 students and tutors. A lot of their tutors are part-time. Obviously, no one wanted to travel into the college. So we managed to roll it out within about 48 hours and also roll out the e-learning as well. And touch wood, so far, the adoption has been fantastic. we're monitoring how many people are using the training videos, and a lot of people are, whilst they're not necessarily watching all of them because obviously time constraints, they're using the ones that are most relevant to them. And the feedback from the college is that other than a few of the practical issues when it comes to hardware, which I'll touch on later, it's sort of business as usual for them. So that's working really well. Just check my notes, make sure I've covered everything there. Oh, and the other part, I think I mentioned it there, is regards to, again, when we ran our first DR days, one of the key things was to do with how good were the resources that we were giving our staff. So other than the very obvious things in terms of making sure that they've got a laptop, making sure that they've got taking the power supply home, whereas previously a user might have just had a standard webcam on a laptop or a basic headset that was given to them free from a smartphone. What we found was that the adoption and engagement with products like Microsoft Teams was a lot better when there was quality hardware in place, in terms of potentially an external webcam. It doesn't need to be the most expensive sort of HD conference room webcam, but something that meant that the video was of good quality, that people felt that when they were sharing the video, it was not grainy, it wasn't sort of an embarrassment when they were sharing it away, and also a good quality pair of headphones or a headset. So we're using a Plantronics headset, for example, which got good noise cancelling on and is very comfortable to wear, because again, if people are using these things for a long period of time, as sort of contact centres workers would attest to, an uncomfortable pair of headphones can make the job obviously a lot more complicated, and ultimately sort of brings that adoption rate down, because people sort of don't want to use the product because they don't find it comfortable or don't find it easy to use. So just jump on to connectivity as the next C. So again, as Paul alluded to, so we're all in this battle for bandwidth at the moment. So I'm working upstairs in my home office. I work from home a lot, but I've got my wife who's a teacher trying to provide Zoom lessons for 34 primary school kids. And I've also got my mother-in-law, don't ask about that, also working from our house at the moment. And yeah, we're all running video, we're all running distance applications, business applications, CRM, accountancy packages. And yeah, there are a couple of occasions where that bandwidth has come under scrutiny, because as we all know, and Paul said before, as well as the kids being at home, all the home workers, the streaming, the requirements, even though the carriers and the networks have said that there shouldn't be an issue, we are getting feedback from customers that from time to time that does become an issue. And obviously, if you're sending your staff home that have never worked from home before, regardless of where they live, you can't really have that much of an impact on their broadband quality. So what have we been doing to try and assist with that? If we look at the practical, when we ran our DR days, we looked at, we started off by asking our employees to do a speed test. So when we sent them home, we asked them to do a speed test at various times in the day, so we could get a reasonable picture of what sort of speed they'd got, and asked them to do it under load. So during the normal day, at home, in the evening when the kids were at home. Now, we appreciate this is sort of like closing the door after the horse is bolted, but moving forward, if people do adopt a more regular home working approach after CV19 is finished, then it's making sure that, yeah, the connectivity is suitable and that's not going to cause any interruptions to productivity. Once we'd established that, we were able to look at, right, the physical location of the home office, and we all know that might not necessarily be a room dedicated to be in a home office. It could be a dining room, it could be a desk in a kitchen, wherever that was in the home for our employees. Does the Wi-Fi physically reach to that area? Have you got good signal? So we've got tools that we've rolled out to look at that, and where possible, because a wired connection is always best, is it practical for us to send home like a 15 meter or a 20 meter Ethernet cable that can be plugged into the back of the router, into the laptop, maybe even just for the day whilst working, and then it's raveled up for the evening. But that connection is always going to be stronger than a Wi-Fi connection, especially at these times when we've got a lot of demand for that bandwidth from other users in the home. Paul mentioned it earlier, some of the challenges that you have with home broadband, and I think they are improving this on a regular basis. But when we look at VoIP, for example, Sky and BT routers can be devils for this, where they can lock VoIP calls. So essentially, there isn't a port open on that firewall to allow voice traffic, so it has to be done within the router settings. It's fairly simple to do, and we're able to talk our users through it, but that can be one challenge that we have. And also some business-specific apps, or if there's a VPN required, because home broadband as standard doesn't have a static IP address. By that I mean an IP address which is the same, constantly registered to that broadband. That has caused some authentication issues for some VPN users and some business-specific apps. So, for example, some of our wholesale portals that we access, every time that you log on, will want to try and verify that it's you, so they'll send you an email. So it's just making people aware that that might potentially be the case. One of the ways that we've combated that, sorry, one of the things that we've done to combat in terms of broadband, and this was back to your point, Narinder, where we felt that our employees were struggling with home broadband, we then checked their 4G signal, and on Vodafone and O2 as a primary, but there are other networks available. We have partnered with a SIM provider that specializes in data SIMs, and they are able to provide unlimited data SIMs and a 4G mobile router that provides, obviously it's signal dependent, but can often provide speeds that match or better the home broadband provider. So what we've done in cases where employees, and over the past couple of weeks with customers, we've shipped out in sort of 24, 48 hours a home broadband, a 4G router with an unlimited data SIM in. There is a fair usage policy, but you would really struggle to hit that. I was just seeing a quick question come in. I'll get to that at the end if that's okay. So we've sent that out to our users. We can do those on 30-day rolling terms. Obviously, if customers are concerned about tying themselves into an agreement, but obviously that from a cost perspective, it works out best on a 12 or a 24-month term. But that's really helped where users are struggling for bandwidth. They can then use that purely for their business use. And again, it's a cost worth bearing. I mean, I think the cost works out just over about £1 a day. So from working from home, it's not much at all. But they can then be used sort of post this. If you go into a Costa or a Starbucks, I think obviously from a cybersecurity perspective, a lot of our IT team are very reluctant for us to be logging on to guest Wi-Fi networks, public Wi-Fi networks, and sharing, logging on to our portals and obviously having access to customer data, because they are very vulnerable to attack. So you can then actually travel with these 4G routers, and they can be used outside of the home office wherever you go. Also very good if you're going to do customer presentations, for example. If you have access issues logging on to a customer broadband, you've got your own broadband provider there. And simply as well, we've got some customers that are just tethering to their phones from working from home. Biggest danger of that, and the reason we don't try and sort of recommend it, is because mobile data usage is typically restricted, and even the unlimited policies have quite a low fair usage policy. So if you're running business applications, it can eat into that data quite quickly. I'll just jump to that question quickly.
Yep, should we get that question? So
yep.
Is a normal speed test enough to test if the broadband connection has the right quality level for video calls or conference calls?
Okay, so not trying to dodge the question, the trick, or the thing that's tricky to answer is a lot of the video services have different compression ratios dependent on the quality of the video that they're trying to send out. So a lot of the providers have actually decreased the quality of the video recently to try and reduce the bandwidth requirements. Typically, majority of home users will now have what's known as FTTC, which is fiber to the cabinet. So BT call it their Infinity product. It's basically, super fast fiber broadband. That will never really have an issue running video. ADSL, which is our older type of broadband, which you might have sort of speeds of between 5 and 10 meg download and 2 or 3 meg upload. That again should be absolutely fine to run audio. So a typical voice call from a voice over IP perspective is about 80 kilobits per second. We can compress that slightly, but that's for a decent voice quality conversation. And video, I think, runs at just under a meg. So in most circumstances, you shouldn't have an issue, but that's in sort of the old normal, not necessarily the new normal, where bandwidth wasn't an issue. Hopefully that answers, but if you've got any other questions, our emails will be at the end as well, so if you want to fire us an email across, no problem with that at all.
The last four, Adam, just on that, that's sort of been quite a lot of Monday. The last 4 calls I got from individuals working in the business was 1 accountant, 1 solicitor firm, and 2 GPs, that they didn't have the bandwidth capability at home to have a harmonious working relationship with the people that weren't working from home. Let's call it that. So that's what we used the 4G cards for in those 4 instances. I mean, it was amazing that we got 2 doctors ringing us up saying, I just can't service the patients because I want to do video calls to do diagnostics, and I just can't get the quality of video I need to make that decision. Whilst I've got 3 members of the family downstairs watching Netflix doing nothing. Yeah, it's just unusual where the requirements are coming from. And once you deploy it, the feedback, I've only had 2 emails back this morning from 2 of the people from Monday going, why didn't I do this months ago? And you think, okay, but it's not necessarily everybody's cup of tea, or the demand wasn't there. But yeah, the new normal is going to migrate through businesses, and you just think, you know, the cost is far outweighed by the productivity of it. And in some cases, on those 2 instances, the necessity as well just drives it to the top, quite frankly. So the best way to enable 100% efficiency is to have a separate Wi-Fi environment in a home working environment, and then you're in a good place.
Right. So just to finish off from communication perspective, thanks for that, Paul.
Sorry.
The communication is really sort of the sum total of the first C, collaboration, second C, connectivity. But again, this isn't best practice, but working with our customers. First of all, when the sort of coronavirus outbreak was first appearing, and customers were dabbling with sending people home, it was, how do I get my customer calls from my office? And I might be using a sort of traditional phone system, or I might have made that move to VoIP. So we went through that process. So it shouldn't actually change how any of your customers get hold of you. And I'm sure, probably, again, closing the door after the horse is bolted, this is you're already working in this way straight away. But we were able to put in place, if a customer already had a VoIP system, are they using a soft phone client on a laptop or on a smartphone? So can we just replicate their business calls rather than being on a desktop, on a desk phone, sorry? They're just going out over a headset or onto a smartphone. So that was the easy, quick win, for want of a better word. If a customer was using legacy technology, so they might have had lines that go into a phone system and didn't really have home working, first of all, very simply, we could just divert those calls out to a mobile. It does mean that your customers are going to be able to get, you're going to be able to answer those calls straight away, which is great. The negative is you can't really do anything with that call once you've got it. So you can't hold or transfer. Once it's been terminated on a mobile, that conversation between the end user and the employee in the business is quite static. So what we try to tie together and send out to our customers was a bit of a hybrid interim solution that they might want to adopt at the end of this pandemic anyway. But it was basically, we created them a soft phone or a desktop application that they could load up with what we call a phantom number, and basically it's a number that a customer would never see. We then diverted their calls from the business to this phantom number. So customer rings in, that then ends up with someone in the office or someone working from home. The customer knows no different, but we then have call control over those calls that are going on. So we're able to make sure that if we need to record calls, we can do. If I need to transfer it to a colleague, we can do. Or potentially, if people want to check up on sort of productivity, we can monitor the number of inbound and outbound calls. We can still look at basic call statistics in terms of time to answer, total talk time. And that is really important to a lot of our customers. Potentially, if there's a sales environment, making sure that we're still making those outbound calls where possible and where appropriate. and the demand for that has been incredibly high, and I think probably has pushed those customers that have kept on to the legacy technology. They've probably now seen the benefit of it in a very short period of time. So we're able to set those up quickly, and still can do if that's of use to any of our participants today. And then internally, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, any face-to-face team meetings, we've obviously been moving to video. The communication shouldn't drop now that we're all working from home. As Paul said, if anything, it's increasing. So making sure that we're having the daily meetings with our teams, we're having daily or weekly company meetings just for short, snappy updates as to what's going on, and making sure that we're all happy and familiar with what this new normal is. Again, one thing which has been absolutely fantastic for me, because it's the bane of my life, email exchanges that have got every man and his dog copied in have now moved into team chats, so we can collaborate a lot quicker and cleaner. We're not sort of out of sync when we receive or look at the 20 emails that have come in on the same subject. You're not having to try and find the thread. You can see that within a chat. Again, we're all used to it within WhatsApp, using it in our personal lives, so that's been really useful, and hopefully it'll be something that adoption is maintained once we potentially some of us move back into an office environment. And our users and customers aren't being afraid to, if we needed to go and sort something sort of between departments very quickly, we'll potentially just try and grab 2 or 3 people over a video call. Yeah, it's not always practical, but it's meaning that rather than, again, lengthy email or chat exchanges, we're all able to see each other, make sure we can carry out the job that we're paid to do. And also it is proving to be incredibly sort of quick and accurate, especially when we're looking to maybe share a document, share a spreadsheet that we're working on, or if someone's having a struggle working from home. I'm sure you potentially all had TeamViewer put on your machines before. It's essentially doing the same thing. We're able to share our screens, look at what someone else is doing. So if they're having an issue, talk them through it. So we had a couple of new members of the team back in Feb. If they're still struggling to navigate themselves around our CRM, customer relationship management software, I'm able to talk them through that over the screen, which has been perfect. So as I said, sort of to round up, most of the contact has been increasing, to be honest, and that's a massive benefit from the technology. I suppose the only thing to finish on is it's knowing when to stop that can be a bit of a challenge for some. So as Paul said before, there's no commute now, there's no there's a lack of sort of social interaction at work, standing around the water cooler. So we are seeing productivity increase, and people tend to be online for a little bit longer. So we've just got to try and manage that as much as possible.
That's great, Adam. That was a really interesting area that you've just touched on, because, you know, as being part of the chamber, we use Microsoft Teams, and it's a really, you know, a really good hub for teamwork, to connect with your team instantly and share files and have instant conversations and meetings. So we're finding that very useful as a team, and we're actually tuning in every morning and having a quick catch up with all the other account managers. So yeah, so that's, you know, a really, really good hub. So,
well,
yeah.
Obviously, I can just say, if anyone's got any questions on any of the topics that we've covered today, myself and Paul's email addresses are on the slides now. In terms of sort of products that we've spoken about, we can go through those. So we've obviously touched on Microsoft Teams, and that is it's probably worth noting, because some customers haven't been aware of it. Microsoft Teams is part of the majority of Office 365 licenses. So if you use Office 365 in your workplace at the moment, you might not have Teams downloaded, but it is available as a product. And most licenses include that. There are a couple of exceptions. Obviously, the home broadband sort of alternative solution, when we've looked at mobile broadband and unlimited data SIMs, we've still sending those out to customers this week, and there is a good stock and good availability. Obviously, the only caveat being making sure signal, so we would check the home address against the carrier's signal checker, and whilst we obviously best endeavours, it is based on your the infrastructure or the construction of your home, so that can have a bit of an impact as well. But any questions, please either put them on the chat window now, and we can go through them, or email myself and Paul aarmitt@stlcoms.com or pballinger@stlcoms.com.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for everybody attending this morning. Appreciate that.
Great.
Anybody got any questions right now?
Any questions, please do feel free to post them through the chat window. Contact details for Paul and Adam are on the page now. Please do also link with them on LinkedIn. So connect with them, and they'll answer any questions that you may have accordingly, or assist in any ways of what they're doing as a business. Okay, so thank you very much, Adam and Paul, for delivering a really good webinar today. It's been very engaging. You've touched on some really interesting areas, and thanks for highlighting the best ways to work virtually or interact with your team, and that's obviously through the Teams Hub.
We just had a quick question from Jim.
Bailey.
Yeah. So how do you think the crisis will change the way we work in future? I think conversation with a lot of customers recently has been, because of how quickly the adoption has been, because it's been forced effectively, a lot of people are giving us the feedback that they now can see the advantage of potentially reducing the size of their office footprint that they take. So if they've got an office that's fit for 40 people, maybe reduce that when their lease next comes to an end to 30 or 20 and do a work from home rota. I know that's something certainly that we will look at STL. I think the practical element of ensuring that their employees have got the hardware that they need, any future investments. For example, a customer mentioned to me the other day that they see it unlikely that they'll ever buy a desktop again. They'll only buy laptops because of this, that they can be taken home. So previous investments in desktops that might have been seen to be £100 cheaper, for example, now they could probably see that, yeah, whilst you can take a desktop home, it's probably a bit more practical to be rolling out laptops across an organisation. So yeah, I think it will change a lot, and hopefully it'll stop a lot of commuting time, and yeah, we'll all save the planet in that way.
Yeah, there's certainly verticals that struggle to home work. Manufacturing is one that I would say, and obvious ones like hotels and hospitality, they would struggle to do home working, but back office can be done. And I think there's just that perception that's been changed about, does somebody need to be in the office to be doing their job? We've probably, dare I say, all been politely surprised by certain individuals in our business that you've thought, hey, he or she is going the extra mile. My goodness me, there's certainly extra effort going on there, and that's been a delight to see. But yeah, as Adam says, you can track everything from a home working perspective, just as it was in the office. We even record the calls where we need to do, where we've got legal requirement. So it's exactly the same. You just don't have the real estate responsibility, I suppose. So yeah, I think it's right to reflect back and not just shift back to where we were before this. That's a great question, Jim. A great question. Thank you.
Great. Any more questions? Please post them through. Okay, shall we move over to the next slide? And then if anybody does have any questions, we can just answer those accordingly. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got some upcoming webinars. Next one is this Friday, so please do tune in, and that's on mental fitness, and that'll be delivered by my member Tessa McEwen from Developing Talent. So please do tune into that via this software. And then we've got one on Tuesday, the 7th of April, on organisations in a crisis, navigating the storm. So to book your place, you just need to go onto our website, select webinars, and book your place. So it's great, and we've got lots of other webinars we're doing as well, so you can view them in that webinar section on our website. Okay, so the Chamber has launched a business continuity toolkit, which is aimed to ensuring you've got access to a single portal. So there's lots of information available on the current situation we're in with COVID-19, how it's affecting businesses. So there's lots of support and guidance available on our website. So please do visit that if you do require any assistance, or you give us a call, and our team is available to assist you and direct you in the right way. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so members can enjoy an enhanced membership experience through our new membership model. It gives them a much stronger offering. So this is the different tiers which are available as part of our value-based membership model. Each tier is designed to attract a business depending on the level of exposure that they wish to gain, as well as savings that can be made. So lots of opportunities in each of those tiers. If you're interested, please do contact myself, and then I can put you in touch with the right account manager, and they can go through the membership with you. My contact details will be at the end. So you can access those, or actually I think they may not be, but if you need to contact me, you can contact me on 01753 870 524, or email us at customerservices@tvchamber.co.uk. Great, thank you. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in today. As I mentioned at the beginning and in the middle, this webinar has been recorded. You can go back and listen to it again. And if you need to access the details for Adam and Paul, you can again go back and get the details on the slides, and you can share it with your team as well. So
do you send out the link to that to all participants?
So what normally happens is it's been recorded, it's uploaded on our YouTube page, which is available through our website. So delegates, you can go through that channel to access it again. And then, as I mentioned, you can share it amongst your network. And if delegates, please do connect with Adam and Paul. And then if you have any questions, they can answer them accordingly, and they can hopefully share their slides if that's possible.
Yeah, cool.
With them. Yeah, that's great. So any other questions? No?
None from me.
Adam, Paul, all okay?
All okay?
Yeah, great.
That's
Thanks
great.
very much for attending, everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity. Really kind.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
All the best. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.